Welcome, everyone, to the DeVory Darkin Show. It is November 12th, this Wednesday, right after Veterans Day. I hope you guys enjoyed yesterday's show. It was really good. Great day to celebrate our veterans. And now we move on. You know, news just continues to change so quickly here. And we are starting with this entire Epstein situation. Now, I'm not actually upset about what's happening because I believe this is a great case study on the way that manipulation works. It's a great case study on how propaganda works. And it's another affirmation of what Democrats have become, which is a truly disgusting party. And they don't care about victims, by the way. They only care about fighting against President Trump. So as we go through this story about Epstein, you're going to find that out pretty quickly here. Also, the president and his part 2 interview with Laura Ingraham is going viral because of his stance on H-1B visas. We already know conservatives overall are a hard no on that issue, but the president isn't. And so we're going to try to explain why that is in today's show. And guys, if you have any questions, leave them in the chat. I'm going to make some time to answer some today. If you're new here, this is all about common sense commentary for these uncommon times. These times are definitely crazy, and it continues to speed up in the most frightening way, if you ask me. I mean, it was just 5 years ago where you could disagree with someone still, just generally speaking here, and they wouldn't be calling you a bigot and a racist and, you know, looking to cut you off out of their life. So my goal here is to speak to the people that are independents, to speak to people who are open-minded, who want to see the full picture and think for themselves. And I guarantee every one of you guys watching, you have someone in your life that is that way. They need someone like you to show them the full picture, because what we're about to talk through today is a great example. If my show didn't exist, if Rumble didn't exist, if X doesn't exist, people would be eating this stuff up and believing that it's just facts. Okay. So with that said, let's kick this off with the way ABC News is spinning this. We know they want Trump to be the guy that's at fault when it comes to Epstein, right? Everybody wants to blame the president. The problem is, if none of the victims are blaming the president, if none of the victims have implicated the president, why are you still trying to talk about the president? It's because they're that desperate, ladies and gentlemen. Let's hear that now.
These are records that the department, or rather the House Oversight Committee, subpoenaed from the Epstein estate. Reams, thousands of pages worth, released this morning by Democrats on that panel, several mentioning President Trump by name.
This morning, the bombshell release of what House Democrats say are emails to and from deceased convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, several referring to President Donald Trump by name. In an April 2011 email released by Democrats on the House Oversight Committee, lawmakers say Epstein wrote to his now convicted accomplice, Ghislaine Maxwell, 3 years after pleading guilty to sex crimes involving a minor, telling her, "I want you to realize that that dog that hasn't barked is Trump. Unnamed victims spent hours at my house with him. He has never once been mentioned." According to the released emails, Maxwell responds, "I have been thinking about that." But this summer, in a recorded interview with the Department of Justice, Maxwell told Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche, the president's former lawyer, she never witnessed Trump act inappropriately.
I never witnessed the president in any inappropriate setting in any way. The president was never inappropriate with anybody. In the times that I was with him, he was a gentleman in all respects.
Okay, so let's show you what's happening here, because you heard it, you saw it. But let me show you the exact email that is being released by Democrats, as if this is some type of bombshell, I guess, in their opinion, which we know it's not. All right, let me put it here on the screen for you guys. There you go. There's the email. And if you were to read this yourself, just go on X, all right? Everybody's talking about it. It starts off with Ghislaine Maxwell obviously emailing her husband. It starts with Jeffrey emailing her first, and then she responded. At any rate, he says this: "I want you to realize that the dog that hasn't barked is Trump." And here is the first indicator of how manipulation and propaganda works. They withhold key pieces of information because they don't want you distracted from the truth, right? Or they want you distracted from the truth, technically, right? That's why they redacted Virginia's name, okay? Who was already on record for saying that Trump never did anything. He was very nice, actually stood up for her, Okay. Her mother is on the record for saying essentially the same thing. They have yet to find any victim implicating President Trump at all. You'd think by now somebody would have come out and said something, right? I mean, if someone already came out and accused Prince Andrew, or should I say the late Prince Andrew, because they are about to get rid of his royalty here, or I think they already did. My point is, if they've already implicated him and accused him, and we know Bill Clinton was accused of many things in the White House, why haven't anybody been able to accuse the president yet? The only people accusing the president of anything is Democrats and mainstream media themselves. So by default, this is already a non-starter in my opinion. So anyways, they redact her name. Virginia spent hours at my house with him. He has never once been mentioned, police chief, etc. I'm 75% there. She says, yeah, I've been thinking about that. Now, I don't know about you. Again, I'm not the smartest guy in the room, all right? But when I read this email, what is this telling me exactly? Is this a bombshell? Is there something in here I didn't know already? I guess what they hope, again, if it wasn't for shows like mine and many others, much bigger than mine, of course, and X and Rumble, I mean, if this is what ABC News reports, if this is what MSNBC reports, and they take this information and they package it by saying, yeah, did you know that the president knew about what Epstein was up to, right? And they try to suggest that the president was in on it. I mean, that's what they're going to do. So thank God for shows like that we have here, because this is the full picture of what's happening, okay? All right, I think I'm making my point. Let's move to the way MSDNC is pushing this story.
Democrats on the House Oversight Committee releasing a new batch of documents from Jeffrey Epstein's estate. Emails that mention President Trump. One is an email from 2011 between Epstein and his convicted accomplice, Ghislaine Maxwell. Epstein writing to Maxwell, quote, I want you to realize that that dog that hasn't barked is Trump. Victim, the name's redacted here, spent hours at my house with him. The White House slamming Democrats' release of these emails as a, quote, fake narrative to smear President Trump. It comes at a major flashpoint, and lawmakers search for answers. Here's what Democratic Congressman Robert Garcia, the ranking member of the House Oversight Committee, told me just last hour.
Member.
It's incredibly disturbing. And these possible links between Epstein and Trump and what Trump knew and who he spent time with and what happened at Mar-a-Lago, all of this is part, we know, of what's actually in the Epstein files. And so at this moment, the Department of Justice needs to do the right thing and release the files that are under subpoena by our committee. The information that we're getting from the Epstein estate is only because Democrats fought to get that subpoena. And so we're not going to rest until we get the truth about the full files and what powerful men committed horrific acts against these women and, in some cases back then, children and girls.
The hypocrisy runs deep, ladies and gentlemen. You know, for me, this is I have some a little emotional. I have emotions surrounding this because when I was a child, I was sexually abused by a family member of mine. So when I hear things like this, I have a different reaction probably than other people. Okay, the fact of the matter is, if you're going to talk about this stuff, you better start talking in things that are factual, things that you can prove. That whole statement from Robert Garcia just shows you how disgusting they are. They think they care about victims, or excuse me, they want you to believe that they care about victims. If they cared about the victims, they would have been screaming about this over the past 5 years. And they had nothing to say. They only have something to say now because they have nothing left. The president not only took their policies, the president took the working class. The president is in the White House for the second time. The president is continuing to dominate on so many issues. He's continuing to win court cases. So what else is left for Democrats to do? To go lower than you could possibly go. To weaponize victims in a way to undermine the president of the United States. And victims that were obviously never really got their justice, in my opinion. Okay? And we already know what happened to Virginia. Allegedly, she committed suicide. I'm not too sure I believe that, by the way. But, you know, she's no longer here with us. I hope she's resting in peace because she went through a lot. And even the people who did what they did to her, have they really been held accountable? Not really. But at any rate, these guys are a complete joke. Now, two things are true at the same time, just for my critical thinkers out there. The president and his administration has absolutely dropped the ball on the communication regarding this particular issue, and it's continuing to bite them in the ass every single day. They decided to send out Pam Bondi and make a fool of herself regarding this stuff. They should have been transparent about it from day one. They should have been in control of the narrative. They lost control of that narrative when she dropped the ball, and now Democrats and mainstream media are on top of it. Now, again, I'm going to say it one more time. Thank God for alternative media, because we're going to show you the full picture of everything. All right, let's hear one more ridiculous take. This is from Robert Garcia himself.
Congressman, when did you get this information?
We actually just received all of these emails, with a total of about 23,000 documents, actually a few days ago, so last week. And we've been going through, our team, of course, through all of these very carefully over the last few days. We obviously released some today. We'll be releasing additional documents likely later today. The important thing here is that we know, and we've been demanding, that Donald Trump and the DOJ release the full Epstein files. In what's been released today, which obviously is some quite serious, I think, connections between what Donald Trump may have known. There's communication between Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, obviously making some claims about Donald Trump spending significant time, hours, with possibly one of the victims. There's also disturbing emails there about Trump and Jeffrey Epstein that people can read for themselves. I think what's important right now is that we want to know why Donald Trump spent the entire campaign saying that he would release the files. And now that he's in the White House, there is a massive cover-up going on. The survivors deserve the truth.
Yeah, see, in the game of politics, because it is a game, this is a loss for the administration. They have clearly, like I said, it's like a pick six in football, okay? They threw an interception with Pam Bondi, and Democrats are running towards the end zone, okay? Because this is all they have. This is the only thing that you can't argue against, okay? If you campaign on releasing the files, then all of a sudden you say you don't want to release the files, you know everybody's going to start asking questions, okay? That's just the bottom line to it. Now, again, let's exercise critical thinking skills. I think the big problem here, and well, let me say this first too. We're not even going to get access to the real files. Real files would be CIA, NSA. You really want to know who Jeffrey Epstein is? We need to get access to those files. Now, would we ever get access to those files? Let's be real. Probably not. We see how long it took to get files regarding what happened to JFK and MLK. So I don't think they're going to release those files at all. Okay, let's just accept that. So the files they do have is part of their criminal investigation. So even in those files, nothing implicates the president, of course, but it doesn't matter to them. What matters to them is trying to own the narrative. And I still believe today, if the president had, which he normally does, he'll get ahead of it and control the narrative. And anyways, my point to all of this is that I just believe that the administration failed on the communication part. But that doesn't mean the president is at fault for anything that happened with Epstein. We already know he basically turned him in. We already know that he removed him from Mar-a-Lago. We already know that he stopped hanging around him. I mean, of course he knew how bad of a guy Jeffrey Epstein was. And so did a lot of other people. And anyways, my point is, I think it's possible that there are so many powerful people implicated that they and it sounds disgusting because I agree with this, they just can't do it. Somewhere along the way, some conversation, some impact, they have weighed the risk that they don't believe it's worth the risk being transparent and releasing these files. Again, I don't even believe these are the files that need to be released. It's the CIA and NSA, in my opinion, okay? But even with these criminal investigative files, why won't the president just release it? I think that's the $1 million question. And I think it has a lot to do with people who might be even more powerful than him, believe it or not. Let me show you an example of this. This is something that came out earlier last month. Newly resurfaced excerpt from the 2016 deposition of Virginia in relation to Jeffrey Epstein alleges that billionaire Tom Pritzker of the notorious Pritzker family and cousin to Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker slept with Virginia. But did you hear the media talk about this at all? No, you didn't. You didn't whatsoever. We also have the story of Bill Clinton telling mainstream outlets not to run stories regarding Epstein, especially if his name was attached. Not going to hear anything about that either. So this is why I'm saying this is a total case study regarding mainstream media and politics overall and how they overlap. Right? Isn't it funny how they all release the same story at the same time? You guys ever notice that? It's as if somebody was already sending out emails and memos. Hey, here is what we're going to hit the president with tomorrow. Now, again, that does not mean the president has been handling this very well. I think he's handled it poorly. I think out of any issue. Matter of fact, here's my two things. And it might be three. The president has done historic things in this administration. Let's not forget that, by the way. Okay? Plenty of stuff we disagree with. But I'm taking him 1,000 times over Kamala Harris, even on his worst day. Okay? Just so we're all clear on that. He's not perfect, and neither is his administration. But the three things they've screwed up so far is clearly Epstein, H-1B visas at this point, and it seems to me they're still misleading the public regarding the economy. They're starting to gaslight voters. Don't tell me the economy is good, bro, okay? After what happened under Biden. You just can't do it. Those three things, the administration is going in the wrong direction. Everything else, I'm happy with. And unfortunately, every administration goes through that. And will they come on top of it? Will they get out of it? I mean, they have plenty of time. But I don't think this Epstein stuff is going anywhere as far as what's going to happen with the president. All it's going to do is continue to energize people who hate him. All it's going to do is continue to affirm people's belief that he is a pedophile or he's involved in a pedophile ring. And that's all defamation, of course. It's crazy the things that they say that they can get away with, right, when they're talking about the president. Even though we just had a president, by the way, where his own daughter accused him of taking showers with her and touching her. Do we need to remind people of that? Okay, let's keep going. Here's Speaker Johnson and his reaction.
Morning. Good morning, everybody. Just wanted to come out and say that we believe the long national nightmare will be over tonight. It was completely and utterly foolish and pointless in the end, as we said all along. I just want to apologize to any Americans who are out there who still have flight cancellations or delays today. I want to apologize to the many American families who were made to go hungry over the last several weeks, our troops and other federal employees who are wondering where their next paycheck would come from. All of that's on the Democrats. Just never forget, they voted 15 times between the House and the Senate to close your government. And the Republicans tried every single day of the shutdown to open it, and we voted 15 times to do that. They have a lot to answer for, and I just want to say that we're very optimistic about the vote tally tonight. We think this is going to happen, and we're sorry that it took this long. So Republicans are going to deliver for the people. We're ready to get back to our legislative agenda. We have a very aggressive calendar for the remainder of this year. There'll be some long days and nights here, some long working weeks, but we will get this thing back on track. So thank you all. Stay tuned for more tonight.
Mr. Speaker, do you have any reaction to the emails from House Oversight?
Okay, so he wasn't going to answer any, Epstein questions there. And his focus is on reopening the government. It just goes to show you the priorities of Democrats, right? They are actively admitting that they weaponized the government shutdown and it was worth it. And now they're obsessed with these Epstein emails that really lead to nowhere. And you know what they're not obsessed with? Serving the American people. This goes back to what I've been saying over the past week. The members of Congress have no, motivation. They have no obsession to actually truly help their constituents. It's all a smokescreen, okay? All they want to do is fight against the president of the United States. All right, let's go to this statement from the White House. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt, quote, "The Democrats selectively leaked emails to the liberal media to create a fake narrative to smear President Trump. The unnamed victim referenced in these emails is the late Virginia, who repeatedly said President Trump was not involved in any wrongdoing whatsoever." I already went through that, of course. Also, she goes on to say that the fact remains that President Trump kicked Jeffrey Epstein out of his club decades ago for being a creep to his female employees, including Virginia. These stories are nothing more than bad faith efforts to distract from President Trump's historic accomplishments, and any American with common sense sees right through this hoax and clear distraction from the government opening back up again. Yeah, it's just pure desperation at this point. I mean, just look at the headline here. Okay, let me show you guys. This is fascinating. This is fascinating. Where is this at? This is here it is. Look at this headline. This is crazy. House Democrats release 2011 Jeffrey Epstein email referencing Donald Trump as the, quote, dog that hasn't barked. I mean, is this what journalism has become? What is that exactly? You guys do know Virginia wrote a book too, right? I mean, but again, what does that do for us? Now, listen, I want mainstream media to continue to dig their own grave, because that means more independent voices are going to be able to obviously rise and have bigger audience and have much more influence. I believe the news should be decentralized. There should not be a monopoly on information. And every time the media makes this stupid mistake, including Democrats, they are doing us all a favor. So I'm not really going to complain that they're doing this. I'm just highlighting the propaganda and the manipulation that happens. And again, imagine if my show didn't exist, or Crowder, Tim Pool, Rumble, all of these different shows. Let's imagine X didn't exist, and only people got their news from CNN, ABC, Fox News. Let's just say those three, and MSDNC. Imagine what people would think. Imagine that. So I'm grateful for the times we live in, even though some of this stuff is just pure nonsense and going in the wrong direction. But it gives me hope that we're able to set the record straight and show the full picture of what's going on here. All right, speaking of what's going on, let's say this. Let's go here. I think the bottom line to this Epstein stuff, again, as I stated, one, I think it was a mistake for what Pam Bondi did, whether she intentionally did it or whether she did not intentionally do it. The fact remains, she dropped the ball. That's facts. Number two, the president's response to this also is him dropping the ball. Poor communication, no question. This guy is a great communicator, great instincts. So there is something that he can't explain to the American people on why he has responded the way that he has. I'm of the belief it's just too many powerful people. Too many powerful people. And I think he deserves criticism on that. No question. But it doesn't mean he is Jeffrey Epstein, which leads me to point number three. Democrats want him to be Jeffrey Epstein. They want him to be guilty like Jeffrey Epstein. They want this reality in their mind, which is not reality, of course, to come true, that he was a part of everything and he was all in on it. And all, like, you can tell this is what they're obsessed with. It's almost as if they fantasize this stuff. That's how sick they are. And while this is all happening, who gets the short end of the stick? The American people. Okay? I don't want to hear about Epstein unless you're talking about accountability, indictments, and prosecution. The fact that we know someone from the royal family committed sexual acts that are crimes in the United States of America, and he is still walking free, I don't want to hear anything. Why is he not being prosecuted in the United States of America? Why hasn't he been sued? And that's just one guy, okay? Imagine all the other people. Imagine the billionaires who are not famous. You know how many rich people nobody knows of? So many people were a part of this stuff. Let's not be naive here. So my thing since day one has been Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, President Trump, Democrats, Republicans. I don't want to hear anything about freaking Jeffrey Epstein unless you're ready to prosecute somebody, because what you're doing is playing with people's emotions. What you're doing is shitting on the graves of some of these victims who are no longer here. That's what you're doing. So obviously, who cares about what I have to say? I'm just some guy with an opinion. But I would hope that's part of the conversations that they're having in the administration. Hold people accountable. This is all a waste of people's time, ultimately. Let's hear what you guys have to say on Rumble. Yeah, exactly. Now do Bill Clinton. Now do Bill Gates. Exactly. They don't want to do that. They don't want to do that. Think about this. You had a president. I had to stop because, I noticed I cursed yesterday and I don't want to keep doing that. Okay. I want to keep it clean. All right. I served in the military. Okay. I heard a lot of people using a lot of foul language. I just don't believe we should communicate that way. I think we should push ourselves to speak in a more higher IQ way. Anyways, we had a former president who was committing sexual acts in the Oval Office. We also had his wife, who allegedly, some people believe, had something to do with some people going missing as a result. And again, if we just connect the dots there, which they're not speculation, these are verifiable situations. We know that's what a former president did. And we know he definitely went to the island, and we know that he didn't want anybody reporting regarding him going to the. So, if that's already something that is proven, how is that less than what they're trying to implicate the president in regards to these emails? It's not less. It's 10x. It's 10x. So, yeah, this is it's an embarrassment to all journalism, in my opinion. Just stick to the facts. Stick to the facts, and maybe we have a chance to save the fourth estate, right? Well, DeVore isn't getting the hint. Talking about these clowns is not going to keep moving people to our side. Well, I disagree. My wife's family are all Democrats, registered Democrats, voted Democrats. Because I speak to them and I give them the full picture of things, they appreciate it. And you know what ended up happening? They ended up voting for President Trump. You got to stop insulting people's intelligence and thinking you know better than them. Most people do not want to be told what to think. Most people want to just be given the facts, the full picture. Most people know this is all a hoax. And what I mean by that is what Democrats are seeking to do, what mainstream media is seeking to do. Now, if you guys are looking for someone to tell you what you want to hear in an echo chamber, do not watch my show. That's not why I started the show. Okay? The show is about encouraging people to critically think. And that sometimes means the president's wrong. Sometimes that means this policy it's not America first. And a lot of times it means that the mainstream media and Democrats are up to what they've always been up to, which is pushing propaganda in order to undermine President Trump. And we should be there every step of the way to push back on that. You don't want to see that? You don't want to hear that? Move on. It's that simple. Exactly. There are too many people still think mainstream media is gospel. We have to understand how many people wake up in the morning and still listen to MSNBC. You would be shocked. You would be shocked. All right. Let's go to YouTube here. All right, hold on. Let me read a couple more questions and then we'll move on. DeVore, how is anyone still falling for the BS mainstream media lies? Because this is why I continue to do this. This is what motivates me to do this show every day. Because me and you, we think for ourselves. We've done the extra work. We've exercised our thinking muscles. So for us, it's easy for us to be like, hey, you know what? I'm not listening to that. I'm moving past that. I could cut through that quickly. Oh, I see what they're doing there. It's easy for us to do that today because through repetition of questioning mainstream media, it's nothing for us today. There are a lot of people out there who have not exercised their critical thinking muscles. Okay? They don't go to the gym when it comes to thinking. Okay? So that's why so many people still listen to them. And then the reality is most people, they don't even have time. They're working all day long. Okay? And so obviously, I think people are more politically aware today. So even though there may be a lot of people watching or listening to MSNBC, there's a lot of people listening to alternative media now. And the thing is, like I said earlier, every one of you guys have someone in your life, whether you see them every day, once a week, once a month, once a year, that listens to MSNBC. Guarantee it. And you also have someone in your life that isn't believing what MSNBC is saying, but they're still trying to find out what the truth is. They're open-minded. And that's why we do the show this way, because I want to encourage you to reach out to people like that and give them the right information. That's why we don't need to spend our time being an echo chamber. All we need to do is give people the full picture, and they're going to use their critical thinking skills. And you know how they have critical thinking skills? Because they're already open-minded. Those are the people we should be reaching out to. Okay. All right. Let's go here. Let's go to me full screen, and I want to look at the YouTube comments, and then we'll move to the next story here, which is about the economy, which is continuing to be another issue as far as messaging is concerned, and H-1B visas. So we kind of talked about it in last night's video that I posted on YouTube about the president's response, and he's continuing to double down on it, and we'll get to that shortly here. Let me just read for my folks on YouTube. Thank you for your patience. Okay, let's see here. Is the government open? No, it's not. No, it's not. Yeah. I voted for Trump 3 times, but he's losing me with H-1B visas and not admitting the economy isn't great. Yeah. So again, think big picture here. Okay. We can criticize him, but that doesn't mean you should give up on him. Okay. He's only 10 months into his presidency. We still got a long way to go. All right. Yeah. Let's see here, because I asked, who was it? I asked Tim Pool this, and I asked Myron Gaines this too. Same question. The calculation. What line does the president need to cross for you to start voting for progressives? Is there a line for you? Is there a line that exists that if the president crossed it, you'd say, you know what, I'm going to vote for AOC? Because let's be real, Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer, they're finished, okay? In the next 3 years, it's progressives who are going to own that party. So while you're sitting there, okay, angry at the president, which you have a right to be regarding H-1B visas, by the way, make sure you remind yourself of the calculation here. It's a list of priorities, okay? See, that's what I'm saying. Life is all about trade-offs. It's always about trade-offs. You give something up so you can receive something. So as conservatives, we have given up having a representative in the White House who defends the way we feel about H-1B visa. We've given up having someone in the White House who defends our thought process around budgeting for this country. We need to cut this government in half and our spending. I know conservatives agree with that 100%, but the president doesn't. Now, what do we get in return, though? We get in return a president who clearly closed the border. We get in return a president who clearly understands the economy needs to change, which is why we got gas prices that are down, egg prices that are down. And those are really only the 2 things that he's been able to do anything about. Everything else is just going to have to take time. And as I've stated previously, once inflation occurs, there is no going back. Okay, so he can only do so much. And the Fed Reserve is a whole nother issue, by the way. But he did do something about gas, okay? So we have to give him credit there. We also received a president who wants education to go back to the state, who believes there should be some restriction on abortion, who believes there's only two genders, who believes boys should not be playing in women's sports. You guys following what I'm saying here? So when you put it all on the table and you see everything, you realize, yeah, we have to take some bad with all of this good. And if we're not willing to do that, and we don't want that, then we'll just be like the voters in New York City, okay? Continuing to make radical decisions like voting for a progressive when we know their policies won't work. So bottom line is what? We elected a president that maybe 50% of the things he's going to do is what conservatives want, over Kamala Harris, who would have done zero. She just would have been, as Hakeem Jeffries says, a rubber stamp for the Trump administration. She would have been a rubber stamp, a clone of Joe Biden, probably times 10. So let's just remember that, folks. Okay? Big picture here. Big picture. And when you're the leader, I learned this in the military. They used to tell us this when you go to leadership school. You're not going to make people happy. You just can't. You always get, it's 33%. 33% will be happy with you. No matter what you do, they got you. 110%, they got your back. You can make a mistake and they are there to defend you. Then you got 33% of the people who are like, hey, I support you as long as you get results. You stop getting us results, I'm on you, right? And then you got 33% of people who, no matter what you do, they're not going to support you, okay? He could save a baby out of a burning building. It doesn't matter, right? People are still going to disagree with the president. So that's the reality of being a leader. And here's one more thing, and then we're going to move on. We have to remember, go back to first principles thinking. What does that mean? We go to the root cause of what we're talking about. Who is President Trump? Is he a conservative? No. Is he technically a Republican? Only on paper, but no, he's not. Okay? Who is the president at his core? He is a businessman who makes deals. That's who he is. So when he proposes something that we disagree with, usually it's because there's a business deal going on. H-1B visas, yeah, there's probably some business going on with that. There's probably some conversation that took place with universities where he got what he wanted, which is really humiliating them and freezing their funding, if you think about it. And, you know, it's just like Apple and Amazon. These people came to the president and they made a deal. Now, we know that flies in the face of what MAGA wants and what America First Americans want. But the mistake we make mentally is when we expect someone to be someone they're not. I am not sitting here expecting the president to be who I am. I'm not expecting the president to be a conservative. I'm just expecting the president to do what he practically can do to keep America great and to make America great and to put America first. Will he do that 110% of the time? No. No, I don't think any president can. Not in the way this country is structured currently and what we've allowed to happen over decades on end. If you think about the influence that China has, yeah. We really wanted to make America first. We'd pretty much go ahead and just cut off our economy right now. I mean, I'm just saying, okay? All right. Now, let's go to this first clip about affordability. This is Fox News summing up the affordability crisis. Take a look.
Affordability, it's on everybody's minds and on the lips of every politician. It's a little bit of a mixed bag. So Walmart said that there is a price drop, okay? In 2024, $53 for 21 items, 2025, $38, but that's for 15 items. So compared, maybe it's about the same. Anyway, a little bit of a mixed bag on that. Overall, inflation at 3%. But your eggs, remember, Maria Bartiromo for years, ever since the Biden Inflation Reduction Act, has been telling us about the price of eggs. They're down. Butter is down. Now, beef is up. There's a lot of different reasons for that. Check out the Wall Street Journal editorial board on that today. It makes a lot of sense for a lot of reasons. Beef is expensive and people want more of it. Gasoline is down, and that is a big factor for a lot of people, but shelter is up. Then you asked this question in the Washington Post poll. Compared to last year, are you spending more money on the following things? Groceries, yes, look at that, 71%. That's what Laura was asking President Trump about. Utilities up 59%. We saw that in the New Jersey gubernatorial election. Healthcare's up, gasoline. Well, they say that they're spending 37% more, but that might be because they have a little bit more in their pocket. But again, that housing number still up. You see that 40% say they're paying more than housing now than they were last year.
Yeah. That is the economic reality. Now, even though costs are up, I think this message from our sponsor today is still worth listening to, okay? Hear me out on this, all right? So I'm not too sure you guys are aware of this website. It's called Fast Growing Trees. Now, a little personal note from me, in case you guys don't know this, I love plants, okay? We don't keep them in the studio because we're not getting the proper amount of sunlight. But once you go into my home, we got plants everywhere. It was during COVID where, everybody stayed home, of course, and nobody was going anywhere. Is really when I got into plants. It really makes your environment feel much more positive. Obviously, we know it cleans the air, but overall, it increases your mood. Now, this may kind of sound out of the world, but prove me wrong. You put a couple more plants in your office and you tell me how you feel, especially next to a window. When you walk into a room, how does it feel to have more plants and not look so sterile? Okay. Anyways, we are really into that. And the cool thing is you guys can go to fastgrowingtrees.com. They sponsored this show today, by the way, because they have plants for any type of situation you may find yourself, whether you're in Chicago, you're in Texas, Florida, California. Their plant experts can help you find the perfect fit for your space. Obviously, my wife is really obsessed with plants, so we've already ordered from this place plenty of times. Anyways, you don't have to drive to your local nursery, which is the cool thing about all of this. Dirty up your vehicle. You could just go to fastgrowingtrees.com. They have phenomenal deals right now, especially for this fall season. And my listeners are getting 15% off their first purchase when they're using the code DeVory at checkout. Now is the perfect time to plant. Use DeVory to save today. Check out the link below in the description and grab your trees today. Also, another personal note. During COVID, my wife and we actually had a garden during the time. It was perfect location. And we grew a lot of vegetables, and it was really good. It was really, if you have the space to have a garden, please do that for yourself. You owe it to yourself, okay? We live in a world today where you even have to question the state of organic, okay? I mean, it's really crazy what's going on. And what I mean by that, they can grow organic vegetables, transport them to the grocery store, and then the grocery store is spraying stuff on it, okay? There is nothing that will be better than you growing stuff yourself. So they have plants and, of course, vegetables and things of that nature. You guys can find it all here on this website. Again, 15% off. Go to the link in the description below. All right, so let's see what Scott Bessent has to say, because I told you guys he's been making his rounds to try to not only clarify what the president's position is, but also talk about this affordability crisis. Here is one clip of that.
Laura Ingraham aired her interview from a couple of days ago, and the kind of clashed a little on H-1B visas, which you upped the fee to $100,000. I want you to watch this and tell me what you think.
And does that mean the H-1B visa thing will not be a big priority for your administration? Because if you want to raise wages for American workers, you can't flood the country with tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of foreign workers.
You also do have to bring in talent. When
we have plenty of talented people here.
No, you don't.
We don't have talented people here?
No, you don't have certain talents, and people have to learn. You can't take people off an unemployment line and say, I'm going to put you into a factory where we're going to make missiles.
Where do you stand, Mr. Secretary?
For years, 20 30 years, we have offshored precision manufacturing jobs. And the president's point here is, we can't snap our fingers and say, you're going to learn how to build ships overnight. We want to bring semiconductor industry back to the U.S. There are going to be big facilities in Arizona. So I think the president's vision here is to bring in overseas workers where these jobs went.
Who have skills.
Who have the skills, 3, 5, 7 years to train the U.S. workers. Then they can go home. The U.S. workers fully take over.
So do you understand the concern that people have? Hey, an American can have that job. Why you give it to a guy from
But an
India or
American
China?
can't have that job.
So
because,
it's specific skills.
Because we haven't built ships in the U.S. for years. We haven't built semiconductors. So this idea of overseas partners coming in, teaching American workers, then returning home, that's a home run.
Okay, so I would probably argue that's Scott Bessent's worst answer I've ever heard from him. You know why I feel so convicted in this? The military is a prime example of the potential of a human being. Why is it the military can take anyone from any height, any weight, any religion, any skin color, any gender, which is only 2, bring them to one central location, and within a matter of 60 days, they are proficient in what they've been trained on? Most training in the military is 60 days or less. You get enough training within that time period to start. Okay, and then obviously you got to go out there and do it for reals every day, which you're not going to get any better unless you're doing that. And the people in the military, some of these jobs are not normal. A lot of these are unorthodox, okay? You got people literally working on jets, helicopters, weapons, ammunition, missiles. You think they got to go to school for 5 years for that? No. The total training for a lot of that stuff is 120 days max total. That, like, total, if you really just, calculate the multitude of trainings that that person is going to have to go through in their MOS. It's not that much. But this administration wants us to believe that American people, the American worker, can't be trained in the appropriate amount of time in order to manufacture missiles. Why would we want foreign nationals manufacturing our missile systems? See, we've got to call this out. That's the only way the administration's going to, correct course on this. And you know what? The president may not, because I told you he's a businessman. And he may have already made a business deal that he believes is in the best interest of Americans. And unfortunately, it requires this particular strategy or compromise. So I guess we're just going to have to see through results whether this works out for the best of the country. But I will say this, I'm not buying this whatsoever. I don't believe for a second that the American worker is not as smart and not as capable as people from India. Because let's be real, that's who we're talking about. Most of these H-1B visa employees are who? They're individuals from India. I got nothing against them, by the way, okay? The only thing I got a problem with when it comes to India and the Philippines is the amount of scams going on, okay? That's my problem. It's interesting that happens and it's never really talked about, right? Anyway, that's the only problem I have with them. And I don't look at them as scammers, obviously, people in our country. But they are the ones who make up most of the positions. And let's not forget, who owns most of these tech companies? CEOs. Did you know most of them are from India? So something's going on. Again, I'm not knocking their hustle. They're doing whatever they want to do, what they need to do for their own families and for whatever they got going on for them. I'm not blaming them whatsoever. I just think as Americans, we need to wake up and demand better from this administration regarding this particular issue. I think we should announce a nationwide program, like tomorrow, that says, hey, listen, schools, I don't care if you go out of business. I don't care if this is going to hurt you. Moving forward, you will receive no federal funding unless you establish an accelerated program that is 2 years max. And that program must only include curriculum that sets the person up to work at said company. whether that is Lockheed Martin, as an example, Northrop Grumman, Boeing, Amazon, Apple, something of that nature. And these companies are going to have to face the president, and the president's going to say, hey, listen, you want some tax breaks? You need to accept that program. This is an easy thing to do. Now, will it be executed? You know, that's a whole nother conversation. Obviously, there's something called reality, but that's better than the explanation they're giving us, is my point. It continues. Watch this.
The president's thrown out, and I'll just tell you what he said to make it shorter. He said, hey, I'm thinking about $2,000 stimulus checks coming from the tariffs to everybody and 50-year mortgages. First off, on the $2,000 stimulus checks, isn't that like using your overdraft to pay off your credit cards? Or isn't it like, you know, taking money from a credit card and paying off your bills? Do you think that that's the most financially responsible thing to do?
Well, there are a lot of options here. The president's talking about a $2,000 rebate, and that would be for families making less than, say, $100,000.
Have you decided on that yet?
We haven't. We haven't. It's in discussion. But the other thing to think about, Brian, is that what we did with the tax bill is actually financing the president's no tax and tips over time. Social Security and the big refunds you're going to see are a result of that. So that's another payment to the American people. And then the other thing you're going to see in the middle of the year are these Trump accounts. Every child born retroactively to January 1, but for the next 3 years, is going to get a $1,000 account that's going to be invested in the U.S. stock market. So that's another $1,000 for working families.
So yesterday, Laura Ingraham.
Okay. Now that sounds more like it. Matter of fact, why don't the president do this? Don't send me $2,000. Put it in my son's bank account. Right? The bank account that's going to be invested into the stock market. Do that. Start the bank account with $3,000 into the stock market. That makes better sense than just giving us cash, because people will just blow it. Okay? Again, step number 1, pay down debt. Step number 2, cut down spending. And then step number 3, if we can hand something out to the American people that will, you know, in the form of an investment into the stock market, I think that makes better sense. But I like those ideas. And again, here's something I live my life by. Law of rhythm, meaning there is a season in life for everything. There's a season for reaping. There's a season for sowing. There's a season where everything's going 100 miles an hour. Then there's a season where you're just stuck, okay? There's a season where everything is just working out perfectly fine. And then there's a season where it just seems like nothing is going your way. I think right now this administration is in the season where it's a grind right now, okay? You're talking about a president that accomplished, so he's like a victim of his own success within the first, let's say, 8 months of just pure balls to the wall, 1,000 miles per hour. I'm doing this. I'm doing this. I mean, this guy's energy is off the charts. Well, sooner or later, the season is going to change where he can't maintain that anymore. And now we're starting to see things we don't agree with. Now we're in the period where we're waiting for the seeds that he already planted to be watered, to be tended to, and then to ultimately grow, obviously next year, where we will see the harvest of those seeds. That stuff doesn't happen overnight. That's the full picture here. So if we think about it, this is just the season we're in. Nobody likes it. It's annoying. Obviously, I'm sure the administration's up to here with it, but this isn't going to last forever. Come around January, February, especially when people get those income tax checks. Yeah, you're gonna feel a different mood than you do right now. Okay, government shutdown amplified how people feel, no question about it. All right, let's see here. Let's go to what Kristi Noem had to say, because unfortunately she's getting a lot of flack as well.
What is the administration's position on these visas?
No, we're going to keep using our visa programs. We're just going to make sure that they have integrity, that we're actually doing the vetting of the individuals who come into this country, that they want to be here for the right reasons, that they're not supporters of terrorists. and organizations that hate America. And that's what I think is so remarkable is under the Trump administration, we've sped up our process and added integrity to the visa programs, to green cards, to all of that. But also more people are becoming naturalized under this administration than ever before. More people are becoming citizens because we're not just streamlining and building some processes back into our immigration policies. We're also making sure that these individuals that are coming into our country and get that privilege, that they actually are here for the right reasons. The Biden administration let thousands of terrorists into this country. They opened the southern border. They abused our asylum programs, abused our protective programs and visa programs, and we fixed all of it. It's remarkable what President Trump has done, and it's because he's a great leader. He's a visionary, and this man is going to go down as a legend in history as our greatest president ever.
Okay. Goes back to what I was saying earlier. What are you willing to give up? Conservatives, are you willing to concede on H-1B visas to get everything else you want from the president? It's a great thought exercise. We don't get everything we want at one time. Okay? If you got your head on your shoulders in the right way, you're not going to get everything you want in life at the same time, but you can get everything you want in different periods of your life. We're not going to get everything that we want from the president right now in this moment. You know, I think it still baffles me that we have a president who actually is doing what he said he was going to do. That principle alone gives him the latitude. Now, doesn't mean he's not worthy of criticism, of course, but just sharing perspective. And I think Scott Jennings last night did a great job of that. Pay attention to this exchange.
Sucks for you guys because Trump has put you in a very difficult position because as my colleagues have said here, right, if Joe Biden or any other Democrat would have said this, you'd be like, that's ridiculous.
I don't know you very well, but I can assure you that the condition of Donald Trump being the president versus Joe Biden in no way, shape, or form sucks for me or Jim.
I think it's quite difficult to defend somebody who puts you in a position of saying we should put somebody else besides Americans first, especially when he's just given billions of dollars to bail out Argentina.
I think first of all, it was a currency swap, which we made a profit on. Number two, it's quite easy for me to be perfectly comfortable with the President of the United States, who's presiding over a broad coalition that does have disparate views. The previous administration, you couldn't sit here and tell me who the hell was in charge. I know who's in charge.
You're right,
of this
and I'm not going to defend it. I'm not sitting here to defend that. So I don't have Trump derangement syndrome. So all I'm saying is if you had somebody else saying the exact same thing, would you make the same argument? Can you say that honestly? And can you be intellectually honest about that?
Trump is in a difficult political position because his base is diversified here. Some hardliners, some moderates, and some people who want it more wide open. But they're all part of his coalition. He's trying to find a balance, but he's trying to do what's best for the United States. He clearly thinks there is some role for the H-1B program, but he has throttled it somewhat with this application fee. He's clearly...
Yeah, I think that's a good take. I think he put it perfectly. I mean, imagine how many people voted for President Trump and the way they want the country to be operated is totally different. Listen, why is it that we continue to hear of this infighting and a Republican civil war and this whole Tucker and Nick and Megyn Kelly and Israel and all of these dynamics? Because on the right, there's a diversification of thought. We don't all believe the same thing. That's the interesting part about it. And I keep going back to it. There's a difference between a Christian conservative and a conservative and a Republican and a MAGA voter and a far-right extremist, okay, and a moderate and an independent and a libertarian. I mean, these are different belief systems, okay? And they all had a hand in electing the president. So, of course, he's going to do things that piss people off. He's not going to make everybody happy. All right, well, let's see what you guys have to say about it, right? Well, actually, let me just show you this one piece of information because I think it's relevant. Real Clear Polling put this up today. President Trump, Barack Obama, George Bush, approval on November 11th, second term, year one. Trump, 42.8% at this point in time. President Obama at this point in time, 41.9%. And George Bush, 38.3%. It's all perspective, folks. All perspective. And here's a photo of that graphic there. Okay. So, media is trying to make people think that everybody's given up on Trump and he's underwater and all this other stuff. That's irrelevant. Okay. Once this one big, beautiful bill goes into effect next year and people get that tax money, watch how people change. Watch. Just watch. As long as the administration can slow inflation and stop prices from increasing, right? And people get that tax money, watch. It's interesting. It is interesting. All right. The problems that come with being a big tent party. Exactly. I'm fine with visas and foreign workers, but it needs to be vetted and legit. Yeah. If Trump would have campaigned on his H-1B visa program stance, how would that have went? Probably not good. Well said, but I think we all can agree, America first. Absolutely. My only question every single time to every single policy is, how does this help the American citizen? Because we are the one paying for everything. See, if we weren't paying for anything, then, who cares what we think? But when you're getting taxed on the money you make, when you are getting taxed on the money you make, and you're getting taxed on the money you spend, and then you're getting taxed on the money you invest, and then you're getting taxed on the money you're using in your retirement, you damn right we have something to say. Absolutely. So it should be about what's best for Americans, and I think this administration listens more than the prior administration, okay? So let's keep that in perspective. I love how you make points very into depth about. I hope this podcast really takes off. Well, hey, I appreciate you guys giving me your attention today. Very grateful, by the way. Very grateful. Can't wait to get my tax refund on the $15,000 in overtime. Yeah. Economic reform is going to take some time to kick in. People wanted it done yesterday, though, so of course people are impatient. By this time next year, we could start to wonder how it's doing. Exactly. I think judgment time is spring. I think judgment time for this administration, because he's only going to be the president for 4 years, next spring is judgment time for him. Because no one's going to care about Israel and Ukraine and Russia and China and all this other stuff. No one's going to care about H-1B visas and all this other stuff. The only thing that's going to be in the minds of the average American voter, who is not tapped in politically to everything, is their bank account. Okay? Their wages, taxes, things like that. And that's why no tax on tips, Social Security, overtime. That's going to be interesting. Make the H-1B workers more expensive than Americans with tax. Well, he's already done that. They used to only have to pay $800. Now they're paying a $100,000 fee. That's a lot of money. Interest on the national debt is $1.2 trillion. We're cooked. I know. We have to do something about that. Okay. Yeah. See, this is a good comment right here. At least we know more what's going on during this administration. We were 100% gaslit the prior 4 years. Exactly. Oh yeah, I forgot. And property taxes. Yeah, we have to pay that too. All right, let's see. YouTube, what's going on? Ronnie says, I love watching you, DeVore. Awesome job, brother. Keep it up. Thank you. Yeah, it's fascinating, right? So let's say they gave us $2,000. We're going to owe taxes on that, right? Let's see here. Trump needs to focus on healthcare and economy before November 2026. I definitely believe they are doing that. Devori, please address the Chinese taking all of our American spots at the universities. Yeah, see, this is just something I disagree with people who are blaming everything wrong with our country on Israel. Okay. Like, the Chinese has infiltrated this company at a level we've never seen before. You think Israel is a problem? China could end our economy right now if they wanted to. A lot of people don't understand that. You do know who holds the most debt when it comes to our country, right? Who buys our debt? You guys do understand that, right? It's China. Who owns our supply chain? China. Who has stolen our secrets, our IP, our greatest technological advancements? China. Who spies on us? China. They don't need to go to war with us. They'll end us like that. That's why the president is like, he has to talk to the president. He's got to find compromises. He's got to find a way to make a dent, right, without causing an escalation that wreaks havoc on the American people. See, placing 1,000% tariffs on China makes sense, but reality, a lot of American people are going to get hurt because that's how entrenched China is in our economy. So here's a great question. This is a great thought exercise. What's worse? The fact that you buy your products that you use to survive from one day to the next from China, or that the politicians are bought from Israel? Which one's worse? Which one directly impacts you more immediately? If China cut off the supply chain tomorrow, what impacts you more? It's interesting. Who's behind the COVID vaccine there? Not the vaccine, but the COVID virus. They've already proven what they could do to us. All they have to do is just release another one. I'm not minimizing how people feel about Israel. I'm just saying Israel, their government, is nothing compared to what China has already been doing to the American population. What did China do to our younger generation regarding TikTok? Think about that for a second. Way before we even talked about the fact that TikTok should be banned, how much propaganda did they push on that platform that poisoned the minds of our younger generation? And it was quick, surgical. China doesn't need to go to war with us. They've already got us from the inside. Now, sounds doom and gloom, but I don't believe everybody obviously is on TikTok, and I believe there's a lot of people out there that think for themselves and have, adjusted accordingly. But if you're going to spend all your time raging against Israel, you got to spend some time raging against China as well. Okay? All I'm asking for is consistency. And these universities, yeah, China owns them too. Who donates the most to these universities? Not Israel. China does. Okay? 600,000 potential spies. Okay? It's sad when you really think about it. Kung flu, exactly. Yeah, that's my favorite line from the president. Mr. President, why would you say that to me? Is it because I'm Asian? He's like, no, it's because the virus came from China. Kung flu, what are you talking about? That was when it was great to laugh about politics, right? I mean, it was really comical, okay? I think we got to a point where it's getting a little too seriously. But again, don't forget to laugh, all right? Okay? It's okay to laugh. Yeah, Kung flu, that is phenomenal. All right, we're at the end here, guys. I want to appreciate your time today. I think we talked about some subjects that it makes you think. And that's the whole purpose of the show, is to get you to think. We may disagree. That's fine. But I want you to think. I want you to exercise your thinking muscles. Okay? Just don't accept everything as facts. All right. Think bigger. Think beyond what you've been told. Go to first principles thinking. Go to the root cause of things. A lot of this stuff in politics, people are debating the symptoms. They're not even actually going to the root cause. At any rate, bottom line to today's stories is that Democrats continue to do what they've always done, which is make everything about the president. And the Epstein email list is nothing new. This email was not hidden. There is no new bombshell. We know he knows or knew about Epstein. We know that already. We also know there has not been a single victim accusing the president of anything. They don't even accuse him of being a jerk. Okay. So there's that. And at the same time, we know Ghislaine Maxwell committed sexual acts on George Clooney. By the way, nobody wants to talk about that. We know Bill Gates got a divorce because his wife suggested he was up to nefarious things regarding Epstein. We know a member of the royal family clearly has been implicated regarding Epstein. But screw all those people. Who cares about talking about that? Let's talk about Trump in this email that goes nowhere. That's the bottom line to what happened today with liberal media. And at the same time, we have this H-1B visa debate in conservative media. On the right, MAGA voters who clearly disagree with the president. And that's why I gave you guys a thought exercise that you're not going to get everything you want. So it is what it is. And he's a businessman at the end of the day. He's not a conservative. His principles are more business driven, not, the way conservatives think, if that makes sense. And the affordability thing has been amplified because of the government shutdown. And it's becoming a big topic. And it's because we're in this season right now, this administration, where there's not much else to talk about. He's a victim of his success. He's done so much. Hearing mass deportation is no longer surprising. Hearing him ending another war is no longer surprising. That's what happens with the human mind. You remember the first month of this administration, every one of you guys, you were looking to hear what he had to say. What is that next executive order that he's signing? Right? Now it's like, oh, yeah, okay. Because that's who we are as Americans. You can only shock us so many times, right? Sooner or later, we move out of that season into a season of something that is, I think, more of a down period where it's just grinding, monotonous, not much really to talk about. And when there is something to talk about, it's really nothing, in my opinion, but it's something that's being amplified. And also that we're in a season where the seeds that the president planted regarding our economic future, we can't see anything in regards to that until next year. So we got to use full picture, be patient. And I think the president earned our patience, for the record. All right. Thank you so much for taking the time out today to watch this show today. If you guys enjoyed it, please like, share, subscribe. It's not your money. It's your attention that I find to be the most valuable. So I appreciate that. If you did get value, make sure you subscribe and share this with your family members, of course. With that said, I want to say God bless you and God bless the United States of America. Take care, everyone.